So, namaste everyone. I'm Ashesh. I'm an Aurovillian, and I was an inmate of Sri Aurobindo Ashram from 87 to 2007. I have been giving classes since 2007, and I'm still a student. So, I'm just going to share with you what I understand from Sri Aurobindo. So, the vision of Sri Aurobindo is a very unique, a very revolutionary vision of life, where he speaks about life as a purpose, what we see the evolution upon earth is actually an evolution of consciousness, that the supreme truth, the God, the infinite, the supreme reality or being has involved in the creation, has become the creation, and that is the potential of the creation. At the heart of creation is that original supreme reality, and evolution is the method by which this hidden divinity reveals itself, liberates itself. So Sri Aurobindo speaks about evolution as the method by which this divine grows in its own divinities. The infinite grows into its own infinities. So he speaks about a possibility of perpetual growth, of manifesting a divine life upon earth, of us emerging as a new being, as a new species, as the result of our conscious collaboration with this evolutionary force. And for that he speaks about yoga. He says yoga is essentially a method by which one learns the various drives of nature, various elements of nature, see how they culminate, what each element of nature is able to deliver to us, how much joy our heart can bear, how much peace our mind can experience, how much strength our body can hold or manifest, how much powers our willpower can channelize. These various studies are various yogas, various lines of yogas, and Sri Aurobindo combines these various lines so that what he sees as the vision of life can be realized gradually over a long time. Sri Aurobindo speaks about the creation as a conscious creation. I already told you that the divine has involved in the creation, and evolution is the process by which this hidden divinity reveals itself. Sri Aurobindo speaks about matter, life and mind as three successive stages of this emerging consciousness. And he says that mind is not the summit of evolution or the end of it. But the evolution becomes focused, individual in us. Nature becomes individual in us. So we all are individualized nature. So what nature has been doing for a very long time, over millions of years of infinite creations of various diversity and types and various grades of evolutionary stages, with a lot of wastage, with a lot of experimentation, that we can do with focus, with concentration. And we can accelerate the pace of evolution individually. So what nature is doing we can do consciously. Nature finds the divine potential inherent in herself or itself, and we can also do that. So each one of us is given an individual mind, individual willpower, a capacity to turn inwards and find that potential. So traditionally, the vision of life has been that life is illusion, accident, unreal, impermanent, uh, a reality which is not real, a dream like a fluke of chance like reality. One of the infinite possibilities of the infinite which is not real. And Sri Aurobindo does not see life that way. So he speaks about using our individual mind, individual willpower to turn inwards and find that inner potential and not end our spiritual journey with this discovery. He speaks about finding this inner divine and then expressing its powers, its harmonies in life as the goal of life. So Sri Aurobindo speaks about a divine life that can be possibly there over a long time, in their own time, with their Sri Aurobindo and mother's personal inner work. The possibility of this new being's emergence was very near. It's perhaps not so much near after their passing, but still it is given to us to work out this change, this evolution, to use our faculties, turn inwards, find the divine potential, and change our life, bring the inner gains of our spiritual life in our outer life, meaning our creative endeavors, our works, our day-to-day activities, our relations with each other, with the world, with the Mother Nature, the divinity that we experience inside. He speaks about manifesting in actual life. So this is the highest level of his vision, where he speaks of living as the children of God upon earth. Realize the Godhead within, and then gradually express it individually and in a place like Auroville, also collectively. So in our relations, in our works, in our institutes, to express these inner harmonies. It's a long-term project, and it's not like we have to work out everything in one day, but there are steps by which one can put oneself on the path. So integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo is the psychological method Sri Aurobindo gave to work towards this vision, towards founding a divine life upon earth. So before we speak about that, we also should know that he also spoke about freedom of India as his vision in those times. There is a speech, actually it was written down, but it was broadcast on All India Radio upon the, I think it was the independence of India 1947, on Sri Aurobindo's birthday, 15 August. He spoke about 5 dreams which are seen as his vision. He spoke about freedom of India, which he saw happening in his own lifetime. Then he spoke about one Asia, resurgence and contribution to the world. And then he spoke about world unity, world federation, Then his Indian spirituality to go out to the world, India leading India as the guru of the world, sharing its deepest secrets with the world. And the fifth was that he spoke about a new species to manifest or rather emerge from us. But if we speak about his vision, then the ultimate vision is this life divine. His main work of philosophy is also called the life divine. So this is seen as his main vision, the vision of a life divine upon earth. Any questions so far with anyone? So then he speaks about integral yoga is the method by which one can eventually bridge the distance between this life and the future life or the divine life. So yoga itself is union with the divine, that experience which is infinite, eternal, self-fulfilled, which is the ultimate potential and which is at once transcendental, universal and individual. Each one of us carries a unique aspect of that supreme divinity. To find that and to express its powers in life is the goal of Sri Aurobindo's yoga. Traditionally, the emphasis is on finding the transcendental aspect of this truth and a merger into that as the ultimate cherished goal of yoga, which would mean a withdrawal from life, withdrawal from activities of life, all relations, and becoming supremely conscious somewhere else. But here, ultimately, the body becomes more and more unconscious and dies. Sri Aurobindo speaks about finding that experience and then making it alive in our nature, in our mind, in our life, our emotions, sentiments, energetic, dynamic parts, and also in the body, to make this body itself vibrate with that highest experience of the divine. So, integral yoga is a method by which one connects with the divine with the purpose to bring the divinity out in life. But the human nature, the individual nature is what is given to us as our laboratory or the first work, our first field as well as first means to work out the change. So the first change works inwardly on our own nature. So whatever one realizes in the inner or higher regions of consciousness, one brings its influence, its pressure, its descent on the conscious nature and eventually the subconscious nature, mind, life and body. Now, Sri Aurobindo again brings this change of nature, transformation of nature. Transformation would mean that the human nature will get the principles of higher planes of consciousness, will be connected with the universal planes, will be self-fulfilled, will be creative, will be connected, will not be dependent on the outward ways and outer means for its fulfillment. It will be inwardly fulfilled. It will receive its inspiration, its energy, its joy, its even physical support from within. So instead of turning towards the world for its fulfillment, it will turn outward towards the world for making beautiful relations, for doing good works, for creating a divinized or divine life. So this is the line of Sri Aurobindo's yoga, and the emphasis of Sri Aurobindo's is finding the divine being from within, deep in the heart, uh, integrating all nature around this divine center. There is an evolving divinity within. Sri Aurobindo calls it psychic being. To discover that, to connect with that, gradually grow in the connection, gradually to make the connection stronger, stable, uh, and more and more real to oneself. Initially, one learns to connect, then one learns to call the contact at will, then one learns to follow the intimations of this inner truth more and more. All one's nature, various parts, various elements of one's nature, understand that there is an inner truth, and its leadership is more conducive for the inner growth, for harmonious growth, for the inner and noble laws of life. This inner discovery and inner guidance is essential. Eventually, one learns to integrate one's nature, individual nature, around the divine center more and more. One learns to live by the inner principle. So, for a long time, this inner principle is innermost being or psychic being is perceived very gently, very softly, guiding from as if from a distance, speaks amidst all the noise of outer nature, very few words, very gently. But if one can appreciate its truth, its witness, its guidance, then it becomes stronger. Then outer nature becomes more and more quiet, and the inner guidance becomes more and more clear. One day comes when the entire nature is integrated around the divine center. And then the next stage of his yoga is to open this nature, human nature, above to the higher planes of consciousness. Now this is known in the traditions that there are various planes of consciousness that make up our creation. That there is one energy, but energy relates differently, variously with the spirit, with the original potential, or with the self of all things. There is a stable poise of relations between each, on each plane between the spirit and nature, but still from plane to plane, the energy relates differently with the spirit. So, in our own experience, if we go down in consciousness, that is, if we do not sleep or eat too much or too less, or take drugs, alcohol too much, then we have the experience of falling down. We feel like isolated. We feel not harmonious. We cannot gather words correctly. We cannot think correctly. We cannot walk on a straight line. So the main experience is isolation. While so we call these lower planes of consciousness, where energy feels more and more separated. And same way there are higher planes of consciousness. So there is, consider some energy mechanism here. As long as it is not open, one experiences oneself as bound by this body. One's experience is that I am this body. I feel anger, I feel love, I feel joy, I feel hunger, etc. But once this energy mechanism gives way, personal consciousness is able to rise, ascend above, one can experience the vastness of the creation, oneness of the creation. One sees or experiences or knows oneself as part of all, a center of totality. So oneness is the experience, and one sees various centers of this oneness everywhere. And there are grades to this oneness that goes all the way to the pure experience of existence, consciousness, bliss, Satchidananda in Indian tradition. So each plane of this ascending consciousness gives more pure and real experience of existence, consciousness and bliss. More connectivity, more directness of knowledge, more efficiency of willpower. So the second stage or second emphasis of Sri Aurobindo's yoga is to open upwards and connect with the higher planes of consciousness, learning to ascend the consciousness, ascend to the higher planes of consciousness, but much more importantly, learning to call down descent of higher planes of consciousness into oneself, allowing it to work in oneself, open oneself more and more. In fact, higher one opens to the planes of oneness, lower one can receive the descent, or rather the descending consciousness works on lower and lower regions of one's nature, moving towards subconscious, inconscient regions. This is a way to open to the higher consciousness for offering this nature for its transformation. Now, these two methods, first method is to find the divine consciousness within. Second method is to grow in consciousness, grow in higher consciousness, purifying this nature, bringing transformation to this nature, are done with a particular language. Sri Aurobindo speaks of God as mother. He speaks of the divine, or the creative principle of divine, as the divine mother. Or when the divine becomes creative, when the unmanifest manifests that first impulse, the first moment, or the creative aspect of the Supreme as the Divine Mother. Because when we see with mind, we tend to think that at some point divine becomes creative, or the unmanifest manifests. But Sri Aurobindo says the creation also is an eternal fact. So the creative aspect of the divine, the Supreme Consciousness, Sri Aurobindo speaks of as the Divine Mother. The divine can be approached in various ways. Indian spirituality has shown that again and again. But Sri Aurobindo points out that if you try to approach the impersonal divine does not make relation with you. If you want to grow in peace, you meditate on peace. It's your responsibility. But if you make relation with the divine, you say, I love Krishna, I love Christ, I have a guru, I love Divine Mother, then there is a relation, there is an involvement of the higher self in your sadhana, in your discipline towards the divine. You fall down, the divine leans and lifts you up. That personal relation allows your heart to involve. And when the heart gets involved, you have so much more dynamics in the yoga. And with this personal relation, the inmost heart also gets into action, gets to participate with love, with devotion. It turns towards the divine, it projects one's individual consciousness into the divine and calls down divine's grace upon oneself. So the process becomes much more pleasant, much more joyous, personal, at the same time more effective, more efficient. So Sri Aurobindo speaks about finding the inner divine in relation with the mother. He speaks of loving the mother, concentrating on her, remembering her, inwardly referring everything to her, talking to her, asking for her protection, praying to her, for anything and everything, communicating with her. So, more one experiences the presence of the Divine Mother in the heart, more one turns towards her with love, with sincerity, with devotion, with reliance on her, more one becomes oneself. One finds one's true being, one's true reality, one's unique contribution to the world, one's one's unique relation with the world, one's way of working with the world, one's way of appreciating life, divinity, as well as contributing to it. So that one finds in one's relation with the mother. Second thing, to grow in consciousness in the higher planes, again, one is asked to connect with the higher planes, seeing them as planes or consciousness of the Divine Mother, because they actually are. In fact, Sri Aurobindo says in one place that the descent of higher consciousness is descent of the Divine Mother in one way. She enters into you in form of this consciousness, becomes you. So, one offers one's works to the Divine Mother. One walks with her in everything of one's life. One learns to refer all life moments, thoughts, feelings in the heart, but as well as around, imagining that one is surrounded by the mother, imagining that everything that comes to one is coming from her, that each incident of life is her moment, her blessing, her prasad, is a conscious design by the mother. So there is also one exercise where one can kind of imagine the mother, the divine in everything, in everyone. But because any imagination can also kind of activate too much mind become restless. And the idea of growing in higher planes of consciousness is that mind becomes quiet. Is the reason that this exercise is not done too much, but still if one can be quiet, one can also exercise this way, that there is divine mothers everywhere. Everything that happens to me is her blessing, her arrangement. So these are various ways one opens to the mother's consciousness. With the descent of higher consciousness, one experiences more and more wideness, because the higher consciousness brings principles of its own plane to our human nature. So this human nature, the mind, life and body, gradually learns the higher principles of wideness, of light, love, silence, knowledge, spontaneity, creativity, lasting action, vast organizations, etc. So purity, peace, etc. are the first things to come down. The oneness of the mother's experience, or the oneness of the higher planes of consciousness, is a gradual thing, and with the descent of peace and the peace being established in one's nature, gradually this experience becomes more and more real to oneself. So in both way, by um, relating with the mother, one finds one's inner truth as well as one finds one's relation with the world. Inner truth, one loves the mother, one inwardly communicates with her, one seeks guidance for one's inner discipline from her, and above one learns to connect with her, meditation, self-giving, one also learns to ascend into higher planes. But the emphasis is always purification of nature, bringing peace to it, brings harmony to it. So the descent is called down. And first calling down is usually of peace, of light, knowledge. Sri Aurobindo speaks about calling down peace and bringing equanimity to nature, bringing a sense of uh, all touch of life is touch of the divine, presence of the divine, equal delight in all things, equal reaction to all things. So with this experience of peace and this equanimity growing, the human instrument, human nature becomes more strong and stable to receive more descent from the above. So we are speaking about Sri Aurobindo's vision of life divine, and he speaks about to manifest a divine life upon earth, a psychological method, integral yoga, by which one can change one's nature first. At the same time, one can work towards updating this material reality, bringing more truth, more harmony, more, you can say, symbolism of higher truth in this life. So whatever is manifested in life becomes an asset for us as well as for others to follow that original experience of oneness, to follow the higher vibrations, much like a mantra or yantra. Someone experiences a higher truth and imbibes that higher truth in words, in rhythm. So by repeating a word or a mantra or a particular line, one can come in contact with that original rhythm, original vibration, or original experience of oneness. The same way, an architect, a poet, a shoemaker, a cook, a person who cleans a floor, a person who folds clothes, a person who is simply riding bicycle or simply walking or simply typing or photographing or anything, by doing most anything or everything perhaps, one can connect with the higher planes of consciousness, and in one's daily movements or whatever the creative endeavor is there, one can express that, update this reality, manifest something even materially if possible, otherwise psychologically, in philosophy, in books, in works. But that becomes a help for others, music, painting, in various ways. Help for others to come in contact with that original experience. So this is how Sri Aurobindo speaks about practicing integral yoga and working towards manifesting more and more harmonious life, more and more divine life, finding divinity, expressing it, finding within, expressing in one's nature first, and then expressing in the uh, outer life, in one's relation with the world, one's relation with each other, with the mother nature, in our works, in our day-to-day activities, etc. Okay. One more time. Questions, anyone? Yes, please. Yeah. Where is Auroville connected in the transformation of life? So Auroville is a collective endeavor for, you can say, practicing integral yoga. But the mother does not speak in these terms at all. She speaks about if one has goodwill for others and one is willing to find the inner truth, it's enough to join Auroville. Later, Auroville, she says, is a place to practice Aurovindo's yoga. She says, which is basically a karma yoga, which harmoniously synthesizes yoga of karma yoga is yoga of works. So it includes yoga of knowledge and yoga of love, devotion. It synthesizes then to manifest a particular vision of the mother, where she speaks about a city and a city life. So a collective endeavor would mean that each individual practicing this inner discipline come together, and whatever our interactions are there, apart from one's inner life, apart from one's nature, inner nature first and the outer nature, that is how yoga works. One also brings the gains of one's inner experience in one's relation with each other, with the community, with the creations that we do, that we make, with the methodologies that we apply for working out the change of our change in the sense that from normal life to the higher life, to the divine life. So this is how the Auroville is designed, that individuals do their inner work, and in the inner life they try to bring the inner transformation, as well as in the outer life they bring the transformation. More practically, that would mean that one contemplates and realizes the higher laws of living for oneself. And then the same exercise one is also doing collectively. For instance, if I have to deal with someone who is very unreasonable person, who steals money, or he mocks or she mocks someone, always by hurting or by forcefully tries to get his or her things done. So within me, I try to find what is the right way of dealing with this person. Correct? It can be an institute, can be something. But when I have to make a collective decision with 2 people, with 10 people, again I try to apply the same inner principle in the outer life. My understanding is that we should try to understand why this person is always misbehaving, always mocking, always stealing money, whatever the. And it can be anything else. It can be simply whether we should build this building in a particular way, because inner life is where you meditate, where you deeply contemplate, where you care for others, where you are sincere, where you are honest to yourself and others. A sincere email, a sincere cleaning of a room, sincere arranging table or taking care of children, kind work, this all belongs to inner life. So I contribute from my inner life, my inner gain, inner understanding, that I believe that we should try to understand. Maybe we can talk to him or her. The other person can contribute from his viewpoint, that probably he's coming from this area because I know he's coming from there, and they have gone through famine, or he needs more help, and maybe he's other person can say that maybe he's comparing too much. He's always seeing things in a particular way. Maybe we talk, maybe we help him, maybe we give him more help in a particular area, give him a different work, or include him in our sharing, raise his salary, give him extra support, or in some cases we might need to encourage him to find another work. So each one comes from his deepest sincerity and contributes to the project, whatever the work is to be done. And that is how also you form a policy, and that is how also you deal with any situation. Yeah? Then what happens is that You make a policy, you form a institute, but the inner work continues for each one of us. So we all are going to inwardly develop, as well as this outer whatever we have created. We are going to work on that by smaller versions, at the same time at one point with a bigger addition, bigger change. This is typically what happens with individual progress too. One individual discipline. So one finds a particular mantra helpful for oneself. You know, one says, "Please lead me towards light." And one finds that one repeats that, and it's very helpful for oneself. Or one finds one day that in the evening 6 o'clock, if I go in the garden and do some work, it's very helpful to me. So one makes a means, a tool for oneself to grow in one's higher consciousness. Correct? The same way, when we come together, we are making a tool. Then after some time, this inner tool is not going to be the same way useful, because one has moved on. One has become a different person. The mother speaks about spiral progress, where different elements of nature one by one come into action in our personalities. No? Something comes in front. Sometimes you are mental person. There are days when you are more physical person. There are days when you are more emotional or aesthetic person or something. So a tool has served its purpose and you want to move on. So you create a new tool. The same way, you create a policy, an institute together. At some point you realize that it has served its purpose. Now life has changed. Now, at one point we were using cement because we needed particular constructions. Now maybe there is alternate something available. We can use that. You understand? Or go back to cement. You understand? So one does not stay on something as ultimate truth. As long as one is free from inside, as one is turned towards the divine, one is truly growing, one is not attached to the tools and means one is using. So one creates and one breaks. It's a self-evolving yoga. No? The purpose remains in front, that I want to create a harmony, a help for all, or something which will connect everyone with that higher vibrations, with a higher reality. Inspire people, educate people, or even connect. So our institutes, our methodologies also keep evolving. That's why Auroville is self-evolving project. In that line. So we have the mother's vision as guidance, mother's teaching as guidance. At the same time, so much emphasis is also on inner learning, inner development of perception, inner harmony, and combining these two and becoming humble and coming together, and sometimes accepting things as mother's blessing, and sometimes finding inner truth to change the reality to higher reality. All this are part of Auroville. Yes, but this is, she said that there should be many Aurovilles in the world. She speaks about a collective realization. No? That individually you do the process, but also do the collective process, so that various small collectives also come together. In Auroville we do that, right? We have separate small collectives, but we come together and we come for a larger concern also, with our inner whatever discoveries are there. The same way, the entire world can move forward with various townships or bigger projects, bigger collectives, where individual is always the basis, right? But individuals are more inwardly tuned to the divine, or the progression, or they are plastic. You don't have to be. Everyone doesn't have to have the same kind of orientation, but we speak about a particular experience, particular flexibility of nature, particular growth in a particular line. So all world is perhaps moving in that subjective age where this changes become more possible. Auroville seems to be a leader in that line, a largest collective. Uh, for a longest time, it has survived, it has grown, continues growing. We have various movements, various emphasis of life at various times, but people are still hanging on and we keep on growing. So look forward to more harmonious development in future. And then the faith in the mother, in the divine, faith in the future, faith in the greater harmony to come. These are seen as contributions or contributors to the future that we are trying to call in. So the vision of Sri Aurobindo methodology is integral yoga. The key is making relation with the Divine Mother, turning to her for everything, and a psychological basis of peace, calm, and faith is seen is very important. Okay, that's good answer.
Are there any exercises that recommended for connecting with the higher levels of consciousness?
So next session we are going to speak more about the practical aspects of Sri Aurobindo's yoga, integral yoga. But the clarity, there is one thing that as long as you ask a question, you are an intellectual person, usually speaking, right? Meaning there is a psychological movement leading in you which seeks some kind of intellectual database to give you strength in life. So studying Sri Aurobindo and Mother is seen as that creates a very strong knowledge base. So you come to a life incident and suddenly you are shocked and you don't understand anything what happens, even in Auroville, even in a collective which is more or less inwardly conscious. Things happen and suddenly you feel lost, suddenly you feel that you need to update your inner knowledge. So the works of Mother and Sri Aurobindo are on multiple levels. One is intellectually they update you, they give you more clarity, a larger vision, but also there is a consciousness to them. One comes in contact with that. One can feel personal guidance coming from there. And more importantly, one can feel connected with them at some stage. One can feel that they are guiding, So the Mother has spoken about reading Mother and Sri Aurobindo with that consciousness, not the words and their meanings and too much emphasis on the outer what she says and things like this, but inwardly to connect with her. So that is one. The exercises on more deeper level is to do anything one does with intention, with consciousness, with integrality, with integral practice of concentration. So one tries to combine writing a letter with sincerity. So doing a business with sincerity for the world, for making a good work, as well as inwardly remembering the divine, offering to the divine, trying to make the work, the service of the divine. So all works become service, all service become service of the divine. And more practically, Sri Aurobindo speaks of divine as the Divine Mother and Guru of the Ashram Mother as incarnation of the Supreme Mother. So these are different levels which are more practical for us. So one can connect with us, one can do the yoga with the Divine Mother. There are people who want to uh, practice only with the impersonal aspect of the Divine, not to call the Divine Mother or truth consciousness, universe, something like this. Perhaps it's okay. But heart does not get involved as far as we can see unless the personal aspect comes into action. But if one can see the manifested divinity, all ashrams or all lines of yoga speak of their guru as the divine, or their new people especially are encouraged to see only their guru as the avatar. You know, but the senior of any ashram, or they have very wider vision, experience, appreciation for others, other paths, other gurus. So one can see one's guru as the divine avatar, but also Sri Aurobindo speaks of mother as a conscious incarnation of the Divine Mother. That has a different value for those who can believe with heart. He says that this is not a human being growing into divinehood and becoming an avatar. This is a conscious birth that has taken place. Even her mother's womb was prepared by the Mahasaraswati aspect of the mother. So, those who can believe Sri Aurobindo, when you read Sri Aurobindo, at one point you start tuning with him, and you start believing in him more and more. You start seeing that he is quite reasonable person, that he will never not betray you. He is leading you to the right direction. And more you study, more you see that the study results in some experience. So then that is the next level of practice, where one connects with her on more personal level. And again, it is not necessary that everyone does it the same way. What is practical for me is not practical for the other person. So many people turn towards tune into the sadhana by devotion. There are many who do it by some mental experience of silence, of receiving light, of following some ideal, being appealed by some ideal. So whichever way comes to you, easy, natural, is fine. One has to keep in mind that the goal is integral. The goal is to manifest divinity upon earth. That's it basically. Okay. More questions? Sake?
Yoga itself is union, right? So in integral yoga, what are we trying to integrate then?
Right.
Separate integral yoga. What is
Yeah.
integral?
Yeah. So yoga is union. Integral yoga is integral union. I will explain. So yoga means that one finds the divine presence. What do you mean find? When I do meditation, I find it. When I have a moment of devotion, I find it. Let us say I am meditating and I find the divine presence. So that is where my yoga is going to lead, right? So what is typically happening in that case is that one meditates on the presence, one finds it, one experiences a deep peace, deep love, deep joy, deep oneness in the innermost regions of nature. I'm pointing here, but it can be anywhere. But the yoga takes place in the inner levels of our psychology. But the outer nature does not participate in this yoga method. You see? And Sri Aurobindo speaks about participation of outer nature also in this union. They become instrument for expression. So a person is a meditator for a long time, he arrives at an experience of trance. He shot up deep within or high above. What is the situation of his body? The body's status is that it's inert. You can puncture it or you can throw it in the river, a person will not know. He has become supremely conscious, supremely energetic, supremely blissful, existent somewhere else. But here, he is not aware of what is happening. So the yoga of Sri Aurobindo speaks about integrating inner with the outer. Union. Then typically when you say union in a particular yogic path, say yoga of knowledge, so you are using intelligence, you are using discernment, introspection, inward questioning, you understand, to arrive at the truth, arrive at the knowledge of oneness, whatever the reality is. What is the nature of truth? What is the reality? What is my real nature? Who am I? You know, inwardly one investigates. So you are using intelligence to probe into the truth, and it is the intelligence which gets connected because you are identified with intelligence. I am an emotional person. Emotions are naturally turned outwards as intelligence is turned inwards. So I outwardly seek the divine. I have in front of me an image, a statue, a guru, Krishna, Christ, Shiva, Divine Mother. I love, I worship, I adore. I see the smile of my beloved in me, in everything at one point. At one point you come to a point where you cannot accept a difference, a distance between whom you love and who you are. So you have a union of emotions, even inner emotions, not outer emotions, with the divine. Outer emotions do not participate. So the outer, this is called dual chakra. Inner is the divine, seat of the divine. Outer is the duality of liking, disliking, attraction, repulsion, love, hatred, kindness, anger. That remains. When the inner realization is there, the glow itself affects the outer nature, but it does not completely take away. Same way, there is a yoga of body. Then there is, so that body is the instrument. Body realizes the divine. Yoga of willpower, so karma yoga. So one learns to offer one's works and open to the divine will, to become a channel of the higher will, etc. Tantra yoga works with senses. So Raj yoga works with mind, takes up various disciplines outward to inward, etc. So in this particular way, you realize union in one element of nature. Because the purpose is ultimate trance, merger in the transcendental, this is fine. But if the purpose is a life divine upon earth, understand? Purpose is that you become more harmonious with the world. Purpose is that you grow in consciousness and help all to grow in higher consciousness. Higher consciousness would mean higher experience of oneness, spontaneous, real experience, meaning that your identity is of this oneness. Individuality remains as a divine center, a unique center to express this oneness. So, if that is the purpose, then you want to have union with the divine integrally, not only in one element, and then from this quiet passage What typically they do is that you take up discipline of any element of nature. Typically, one particular chakra is associated with a particular line of yoga. So you work with outer nature, you refine it, make it quiet, pass the consciousness inward, and then from there you shoot up in the transcendental. While here you purify the nature, all of it. Inwardly connect here to find the divine center, to integrate the nature. Upwards you connect with the higher to receive the descent of higher planes of consciousness into the nature, to bring it peace, purity, harmonization of various natures, various chakras, etc. And ultimately prepare the nature for transformation. Meaning, instead of receiving knowledge, information from outside, instead of receiving love, joy from outside, instead of receiving food, etc. from outside, simply you can receive from inside. Or if you receive from outside, you are not really dependent on that. No? Your outer life is your expression of your inner life. So integral yoga in that case would mean that you integrally turn towards the divine to receive the divine touch, divine influence, divine action in your nature. So this entire nature becomes a vibrant radiator, a channel of the divine in the world to radiate divinity, divine powers, to do divine works. And all of this is done by this integral concentration on the divine, personal as well as impersonal divine. To do everything with an integral consciousness. So this doesn't happen in one day. One starts with what one has, and gradually, it's like I like to read, so I read. This is how I start my yoga, and this is totally fine. So we have libraries in Auroville, Savitri, Bhavan including, right? Or someone likes to do some chanting, because that is how one receives the contact of the divine first. So this is fine. But then one has to remember that it has to come in one's life, in one's works, in one's relation with people. If I am doing nice meditation and with my co-worker I am bad, then there is something to work on, etc. Okay. Long answer, sorry. But anyone else has something to ask, please? So, typically in the yoga, one walks with the mother. So, initially you have, let's say, initial contact, initial experience. It can be of any kind. But one learns to see something of the personal divine in that experience. Or it's not right way of putting it, because one cannot force interpretation on the experience. Experience is experience. But in one's personal discipline, one's personal practice, one focuses on finding a personal contact of the divine, and if possible as the mother. And Aurobindo says that almost from the beginning, an emanation of the mother comes and stays with you, works with you. So something of the mother is experienced personally all the time with oneself. And one works with that. And in that presence, in that communication, one learns to develop other experiences. Keeping again in mind that a regular study of Aurobindo Mother's works is going to be very helpful. Growing in peace rather than in other jazzy experiences is going to be more helpful, because the entire emphasis is on preparing the system to hold the powers. See, typically, traditionally, You are asked to awaken the sleeping energies Kundalini from lower center to higher. In Sri Aurobindo's yoga, one is constantly reminded that there is a higher region of consciousness above. Yeah? And the concentration is on the Divine Mother or on the higher planes of consciousness. One is asked to call down consciousness. One works with consciousness. There is a force aspect of consciousness. When it comes, there is a force experience. There is a forceful action experience. Sometimes even that can inspire one to do some outer action. But the idea for a long time is to see all that comes, whatever guidance comes, inspiration comes, only inspiration or impulse comes only for one's own inner purification, inner transformation, inner change, inner turning towards the Mother. The enthusiasm for receiving the divine command, Adesh, for outer action, as far as I understand, is a delusion. The emphasis is on one's inner work, inner purification only. And for a long time, this descending force purifies the nature, brings peace, brings light, brings knowledge, love even, and not much powers except those which are helpful only for one's inner work. Comes down center by center, purifies them, opens them, harmonizes them. Sri Aurobindo says only ultimately, in the very final stages, the consciousness touches, descending consciousness touches the sleeping energy and the force awakens. And as it awakens, one is able to hold that force. So traditionally, you must be aware that the force is not awakened fully until one has decided to leave the body, because it can hurt and burn the system fully, right? So in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, the process is reversed, as he says. It starts from consciousness, and one opens to the consciousness more and more, allows it to work within oneself. One learns to open to it. One learns to open to it in all situations, all circumstances, day and night. One is working or one is not working. One learns to receive and allow it to bring peace, consciousness, more consciousness into the being. Prepare this nature. It's called a vessel or instrument, a basis. And only ultimately that universal strength joins in, power joins in from below. So that gives you some answer. Okay. More? Sorry? Power, money, sex in the integral yoga practice. So these all are various modes of energies, and Sri Aurobindo sees life in general not as turned towards the divine naturally, and all the forces of life are also more or less not in the hands of the divine. So money is, Sri Aurobindo says, is visible force of an invisible energy, a visible manifestation of invisible force, which is to help us with the communication, with our works, with life in general, but in wrong hands, and it has to be won back for the divine purposes. So what is to win back the money for the divine? Everyone is not going to earn a lot of money, right? But This also means that whatever money we have, we use rightly, we earn through uh, conscious means, we spend in the right directions. But also, the mother spoke about keeping the currency notes very cleanly and well ordered in one's purse. So, in every way, this energy has to be respected materially as well as in the circulatory ways. The sex energy, Sri Aurobindo has spoken about living by the divine is yoga. Serving the divine, to be one with the divine, would mean actually that one lives inwardly, fulfilled by the divine from within, not receiving energy and joy and having all these exchanges which are dependent on subconscious energies. So, sex on that count does not pass as a yogic process. Yeah. Except in Tantrism, where it's a very consciously guided process, and if the pure form of Tantrism, then the purpose is still to live by the higher principles of consciousness, discovery of the divine, etc. And uh, traditions, as they come to us, still tell us, even in Tantrism, that the purpose is to find the merger in the transcendental. So, we go with Sri Aurobindo, where he takes from every yogic path, but he speaks about a different thing. He speaks about turning the energies towards the divine, living by the divine more and more. So, sex, one has to see personally how it is guiding oneself, how strong these energies, these thoughts, these feelings, these impulses are in oneself, and whether one can joyfully turn towards the divine, and one needs to grow, one needs to go through this experience of being with a partner, being with a sexual process, and gradually lift oneself in the, let us say, main processes of integral yoga, by which one finds the divine union and reliance on the inner source rather than outer. So, in his letters, he has spoken about, if you cannot completely reject, then there are steps you can do, something like this. Even you can also accept the processes partly and offer the entire act to the divine, and then gradually reduce the times of interaction and come more and more to experience the divine, and one day take the step to, at least for a time, not indulge into sexual acts, live by the divine presence. One day, in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, the entire emphasis is on the positive finding of the experience, not so much on negative rejecting of life experiences. So, not to blame oneself, not to reject something which makes one dull and joyless, because that will open oneself to more wrong movements. So, accept oneself, but grow in the positive experience. One day, the positive experience becomes so positive, so overpowering, that one can easily get rid of whatever moments one finds as not helping to grow in the experience, in the divine experience. So that is how I see. And the powers, what do you mean by powers? What powers, for instance? Like a? Okay. Administrative powers, for instance, etc. So, of course, very much depends on how one is inwardly connected with the divine, and how outer nature has been purified. So, in that case, one will be a servant, true servant of the divine, and there are various interpretations, and I believe that my personal understanding is that one has to really inwardly connect in a very stable way, and stability of experience is only possible when the outer nature is purified of so much hypocrisy, so much bad will, anger, lust, greed, manipulations, lying. When that has happened, then only the inner experience is stable in the outer nature, so it can guide. So till that is not happened, to be humble, to be inclusive, to be genuinely of goodwill, and grow inwardly in the inner experience, and outwardly in humility, in a serving attitude. I think that would be, this is a very subjective question with a very subjective answer. Um, one has to be really sincere to be able to know one's place in this area. One is administrator, one is having a power over things. And it's so easy to become abusive, so insincere, and interpret the mother's words or the divine's inner guidance for something gross, for something that gives importance or powers to oneself. And a narrow devotion, a narrow, one can theorize the vision, one can religionize yoga, one can make a to say sect of that, so much guidance that Mother and Aurobindo gave for making a collective realization. So with so much humility one has to proceed, and any aggression, any claiming that one receives divine commands, any certitude that what I know is the final truth, final interpretation of the mother's words, etc., should be very strictly, very humbly rejected. This is how I see it. So, any question? So then we call it a day. Thank you very much for coming.